Good afternoon, and welcome to True Crime Mysteries. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. As always, if you could give this video a like and comment with your thoughts down below, that would be much appreciated as it helps the channel to grow. And if you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and click that red button because I make more content like this, and hit the little bell icon so you get notified when I post. Today, we are discussing 3 people who disappeared while vacationing on a cruise ship. Let's get into it. While cruises are often seen as a fun, relaxing vacation, there can also be a dark side to sailing on a ship in the middle of a dark ocean. According to a study from 2017, over 300 people have gone missing from cruise ships since 2000. Many missing person cases are completely cold due to the lack of security, underreporting, and delays in investigations, with little evidence, leaving devastated families wondering what happened to their loved ones. Number 1. Merrian Carver. In August 2004, 40-year-old Merrian Carver booked a 7-day Alaskan cruise. The Boston native flew from Massachusetts to Seattle, Washington, and on August 27th, she boarded the ship. Merrian was alone that summer. She was divorced, and her teenage daughter was with her ex-husband in the UK. She was also unemployed at the time, living off of a trust fund and investments. Her father described her as a very serious and independent person, and she'd been very successful in her career, allowing herself more freedoms later in life. Merrian had previously been an investment banker and had done very well for herself. She was known to take solo trips without telling anyone, but this trip was different. Merrian should have returned on September 2nd, but when her family couldn't reach her, they became concerned and filed a missing person report, where Merrian lived in Cambridge, Massachusetts on September 7th. Police started their investigation and discovered through her credit card statements that the cruise ship tickets had been purchased along with round-trip tickets from Seattle back to Cambridge. At this point, it was several weeks after Merrian had been set to return home, and police discovered that Merrian hadn't arrived for her return flight. They reached out to the cruise line for more information. The cruise line was able to confirm that Merrian had boarded the ship, but they couldn't confirm whether she had disembarked the boat. The cruise line had made no effort to report Merrian missing.
Officials confirmed that Merrian got on the cruise. They just weren't sure if she had gotten off.
Seemed like kind of a rather basic thing. If you put 2,000 people on a ship, you ought to know if 2,000 people got off the ship. They didn't know that. They couldn't tell us that.
Official channels were being stonewalled by the cruise lines, forcing Merrian's father, Ken Carver, to hire a private investigator to try and get some additional information. Through that investigation, they were able to get little information. They did discover that Merrian had ordered room service on the second night of the voyage, but after that there had been no activity on Merrian's Sea Pass, which was an on-board payment system used to buy food and drinks, as well as get on and off the ship. They also learned from the steward of her room that her bed hadn't been slept in after the first night, but all of her belongings were still in the room, including her purse and wallet. On the 3rd morning of the voyage, the steward reported to their superiors that Merrian's room was going unused, but he had been told to do your job and forget it. Despite being told to forget about it, he continued to report that the room was being unused every day for the remainder of the trip. On the final day, the same steward asked what to do about the room, as it still contained all of Merrian's belongings. His manager told him to pick up the room and put the things in storage, which he did. It wasn't until Ken had reached out to the cruise line directly that they filed a missing person report and started an internal investigation. 26 days after Merrian had disappeared. When they tried to track down Merrian's belongings, they couldn't be located, with the cruise ship saying that the items had been donated, though other sources said that it was a common occurrence for staff members to go through left-behind items, and this is what likely happened to her belongings. Regardless, none of her things were recovered. The cruise line stated that they had no surveillance of Merrian while on the ship. According to Ken, officials from the cruise line had told him that their surveillance system operated on a 2-week cycle and the footage had been automatically deleted. However, when his lawyers subpoenaed the corporate offices, they discovered that they were actually on a 30-day system, and by the time they had been made aware of Merrian's disappearance, they would have had access to that footage still, but failed to save anything from that sailing. After the subpoena, the cruise line produced a grainy photo of Merrian as she had boarded, but after that they said they had nothing. There was very little accountability from the cruise line, which infuriated Ken Carver. He was horrified that he needed to go through court orders in order to obtain any information from Royal Caribbean. Ken went through years of legal battles to get information about his daughter's disappearance, a process he said that no family should have to go through. He sued the cruise line in 2005, after which Royal Caribbean issued a statement saying that they believed Merrian had committed suicide. Her family does not believe this is the case, and says that they were robbed of getting answers when the cruise line was negligent in reporting her disappearance. They won their suit. Ken Carver went on to establish the International Cruise Victim Association, and in 5 years he was able to successfully lobby Congress to pass legislation for all cruise ships to immediately report onboard crimes to authorities and be required to preserve evidence. The legislation also required all ships to make several changes to improve safety, such as have rape kits and physicians on board, install peepholes on cabin doors, as well as install more security cameras. In 2013, remains were discovered on Mary Island in British Columbia, and were thought to belong to Merrian, but they weren't a match. In 2020, her father passed at 83 years old after spending nearly 2 decades advocating for passenger safety on cruise ships. Number 2. Fariba Amani. In February 2012, 47-year-old Fariba Amani boarded the Bahama Celebration in Florida with her boyfriend, Ramiz Golshani. Fariba was from Port Moody in British Columbia, Canada, and her boyfriend was from Coquitlam, BC. Fariba texted her sister goodbye that morning and was never heard from again. Her boyfriend Ramiz reported her missing on the 29th after saying he searched the ship for her. He said that they had watched a comedy show that evening and that he had planned to hit the casino. He said that he left Fariba at the cruise line gift shop where she was picking out souvenirs at 1 a.m. He said that he spent an unknown amount of time at the casino and wasn't sure what time he returned to the cabin. He said that he did notice Fariba wasn't in yet, but wasn't concerned and went to bed. He said he woke at 7 a.m. and saw that he was still alone, and then searched for an hour before alerting staff to his missing girlfriend. A search of the vessel concluded that Fariba wasn't there, and the FBI was alerted. The FBI searched the ship 36 hours after Fariba was reported missing, as well as the waters on the ship's route, but nothing turned up in the investigation. Fariba's family were quick to let law enforcement know what they knew about Ramiz. The couple had dated for 8 months, and it wasn't an easy relationship. Fariba had told her sister that she thought Ramiz was cheating on her, and had considered hiring a private investigator. Family members noticed that Ramiz was very domineering and controlling of Fariba, and she had also mentioned that she was scared of him and wanted to leave the relationship. Fariba's family had also never met Ramiz and said that Fariba hadn't wanted to go on the trip due to her wanting to end the relationship with Ramiz, but had said that they had bought and paid for the vacation months earlier and she wanted to make the most of it. Fariba is a mother of 2 adult children. She is reported to not drink alcohol and had no reason to abandon her life. Initially, the FBI concluded that they didn't believe foul play was involved in Fariba's disappearance, but her family disagrees with that finding. Ramiz was cleared of all wrongdoings by the FBI and was allowed to return to Canada. Fariba's family filed a missing persons report, but the RCMP has stated that there isn't enough evidence to investigate or reason the disappearance. Fariba's sister continues to advocate for her and hopes that one day there are answers. Number 3. Amy Lynn Bradley. It was March 21st, 1998, when Amy Lynn Bradley boarded the Rhapsody of the Seas for a week-long cruise. The 23-year-old was with her parents and her brother Brad, and the cruise had been a bonus from her father's work. Her parents were thrilled to tell their kids about the 7-day, all-expense-paid cruise of the Caribbean, but Amy wasn't so sure about the trip. Amy was terrified of the ocean and boats. Though a good swimmer and a lifeguard coach, it was the deep sea and the unknown waters that made her nervous. Amy was sold on the trip by her family and looked forward to spending time with them and take a break from school. Amy was close with her family and had a close bond with her younger brother. Amy had even chosen to go to college close to home to be near her family. She was pursuing a master's degree in sports psychology. The family flew from Chesterfield County, Virginia, to Puerto Rico and boarded the ship there. The first 2 nights of the trip, everything was normal. They were all having a blast exploring the amenities of the ship and enjoying their holiday. On March 23rd, the ship had a day stop in Oranjestad, Aruba, and the family explored the area together. They returned that evening for dinner and then headed to one of the clubs on the ship. Videos from that evening show it wasn't very crowded and was a pretty tame affair. Brad said that they were dancing and having a few drinks. They were with their parents after all. At 1 a.m. the ship departs Aruba, en route to Curacao, and shortly after, the Bradley parents retired for the evening, leaving their adult children to enjoy their night without their parents. Amy and Brad went to one of the 24-hour nightclubs on board to see a show put on by the house band, the Blue Orchid. They danced for a few more hours but went back to their room around 4 a.m., where they sat on their balcony chatting about the day until around 5 a.m. Brad remembered Amy mentioning she wanted to deboard in Curacao to purchase more cigarettes. Brad called it a night and left Amy, who said that she wasn't feeling very well and she wanted to sit outside for some fresh air. Brad told her goodnight and went to bed. At 5:30 a.m., Amy's father wakes up and sees Amy on the balcony still. He notes both of his children are safe in the room and goes back to sleep. They had plans to get up early that morning, have breakfast together, and then explore Curacao all day. He woke up 20 minutes later and notices the plastic chairs on the balcony were empty. Not alarmed initially, he got up and started to get ready. He assumed Amy had gone to get coffee, and he thought he would find her where they normally had breakfast. He looked around for Amy on deck, but couldn't find her. He searched the ship for an hour, and there was still no sign of his daughter. He went back to the room and woke his wife and Brad, who joined him in helping search the ship. After looking at all the usual places they expected to find Amy, they reached out to the cruise staff. They begged the captain not to allow passengers to deboard until a complete search had been undertaken. The captain of the ship said that he would ask the cruise staff to do an investigation, but he would not make an announcement or contain the ship as he didn't want to alarm other passengers. The Bradleys frantically searched the ship, hoping to find anything that would help locate Amy. None of her belongings seemed to be missing, and wherever Amy had gone, she seemed to be barefoot as her shoes were still on the balcony. Her family said that Amy never went anywhere without giving them a heads up, but her brother remembered that Amy was running out of smokes and may have left the room to find more. The captain came back saying that the entire ship had been searched, but there was no sign of Amy. He suggested she may have fallen over the rails and suggested a search of the waters. Amy's family thought that was highly unlikely because due to her fears of the ocean, she never went anywhere near the edge of the ship. At the time of her disappearance, the ship was also in shallow waters near Curacao. Someone would likely have seen her fall, or she could have easily swum back to land had she fallen. Her parents said that Amy had been approached by several wait staff members throughout the voyage, each asking her out, and each she politely declined, and that the night that she went missing she had been seen dancing with the man that played in the house band. According to her family, suicide was also off the table in their eyes. Amy had just gotten an English bulldog puppy that had been a lifelong dream. She was also set to start a new job after the cruise, and there were no signs that Amy was experiencing any depression or mental health issues. Members of the cruise line suggested that Amy had likely disembarked the ship that morning and could likely be in Curacao, and insisted that the family look for her there. They said that they would not hold the ship for one missing passenger and insisted they leave the ship to continue to search for her on land rather than stay on the boat. The family reluctantly disembarked, and they needed time to get in contact with the American authorities to get their help. Clearly, finding Amy wasn't in the best interest of the cruise line, and they were shocked and upset by their lack of concern. They watched as the ship departed the port, leaving them in a foreign country with no support and missing their daughter. The FBI took over the investigation and asked the family to get back on the ship. They also said that they would send agents to help search, but had already uncovered that the investigation of the ship undertaken by the cruise employees had not been thorough, and there was a good chance Amy could still be on the ship. They flew to St. Thomas to reboard the ship on the next planned stop, along with a team of FBI agents, but it was near the end of the cruise. On March 26, 48 hours after Amy was last seen, the FBI starts their investigation on board. They also went around to other passengers with photos of Amy to see if anyone saw her that morning. The investigation starts to lead to clues. Several witnesses placed Amy with the band player that she had been seen dancing with at the nightclub the night she had went missing. Someone said that they saw her get into an elevator with him at 5:45 a.m., which, if accurate, would mean she left the room about 5 minutes before her dad had started to look for her. The man's name was Alistair Douglas, but was known as Yellow. The witnesses said that they had lined up to deboard the ship, and they saw Amy with Yellow. They said that they saw him hand Amy a dark-colored drink that could have been coffee or Coke. Then they disappeared from view, but Yellow came back 10 minutes later, alone. This is the last unconfirmed sighting of Amy on the ship. There were several sightings of her over the years that leads the family to believe Amy was kidnapped and held captive in the Caribbean. The family was sent a photo years later of a woman in a brothel catalog, and experts believe that photo is of Amy. 2 Canadian tourists reported that they saw a woman matching Amy's description on a beach in Curacao that August, specifically remembering one of her tattoos. Amy has several tattoos, including the Tasmanian devil dribbling a basketball on her left shoulder, a Japanese sun, a symbol on her right ankle, and a blue gecko lizard around her navel. She also has multiple ear piercings, and her belly button is pierced, and she has a scar on her right shin. A member of the U.S. Navy also reported seeing Amy in a brothel in 1999. He said that he was approached by a young woman who said her name was Amy and she was being held against her will, but he didn't report this sighting until years later, fearing he would be disciplined for being in a brothel while on duty. The last sighting was in 2005, when a woman said that she saw a young woman flanked by men in Barbados. She said that the woman was distraught and was being threatened. She said that she followed the young woman into the washroom, and there she said that her name was Amy and she was from Virginia and needed help. But before she could get more information, the men came in and dragged her out of the bathroom. This is a sketch of the men she saw that day. The Bradley family has a $250,000 reward for information leading to Amy's return. Additionally, the FBI has $25,000 for any information about Amy. Any sightings can be valuable in locating or solving what happened to Amy Bradley. Experts want to remind people to stay alert even while on vacation and not to take your personal safety for granted. Always let your loved ones know of your travel plans, and remember, it is always recommended to travel with someone else. Letting them know where you're going to be going and when you plan on returning. While on cruise ships specifically, if you're drinking, remember to have a sober friend. And don't take drinks from strangers, and be mindful of your surroundings. Well, that is it for this video. As always, please give this video a thumbs up if you like the content, and subscribe for more if you haven't already. If you've done all that and want to support me and the channel, we have channel membership as well as Patreon to get early access, members-only content, and more. We also have merch and other goodies in the description box, as well as links to all my socials. But until then, I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.